it's been difficult for them to get there. I think one of the gentlemen is a senior, so he goes down to Florida for the summer. Okay, so that's one of the issues. And I agree with Steve when he says that the liaison should not have that role. But I think until we're able to fill it up to the 5 members, it might be advantageous to do something like that. I know I think the FAC has a voting liaison, is that right? And the Financial Committee has a voting liaison. So we do have committees that have voting liaisons. And they have many members. I'm thinking more of an emergency type scenario to get things going. With regard to the Water Commission not knowing, there's definitely a breakdown in communication and a breakdown in the process, in the protocol. I would think that the DPW would have advised the Water Commission immediately and said, listen, we're having this problem. We need to do this or that, whatever the case might be. That didn't happen. So there was probably not an understanding of who to call or what to do. And that's a systemic issue that we have within town. There are a lot of committees don't know who to call on a certain given issues. And this happened to be one of them. But I'd really like to, I've given a lot of thought to steps that we could possibly take that I could share with the commission and get the commission in a more functioning and more, have their presence be more well known at this time. And this would be the time to do it.
Great, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. I gather that an ad has been put in for additional...
Yes, it was on the back page of the transcript this week.
So step 1 would be to see if we can fill the vacant positions on the Water Commission.
Right.
I think we should also ask the town administrator to make sure that our water department is in communication and understands that the commissioners should be notified in the event of any event that is related to their responsibilities. And hopefully that will resolve the issue. With respect to Andover, Greg is committed to communicate. He's actually tried to communicate and meet with the town manager in Andover. I've spoken to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen in Andover, and I know that Dick Cannavale has talked to his counterpart. March is the new renewal date, or our contract runs out, so, clearly we have some time to, structure language such and hopefully negotiate a contract that would deal with those issues. With respect to what you've brought forward, clearly we are looking at resolving the issue on a more global or a larger scale.
Bob, if I just make
Yes,
one quick
Mr. Prisco.
point. My disappointed tone, it's only because of the way we were treated by Andover. But overall, I'm couldn't be more pleased with the way Mark and Dick and his staff have managed this crisis. I think they've gone above and beyond and exceeded my expectations on managing it. And so I just wanted to make sure that my disappointed tone doesn't come across and reflect upon anything they have done. They have absolutely exceeded my expectations.
Not to belabor the discussion anymore, but I think it's, the other thing that's going through my mind is, in years past, and there is a bylaw that specifies summer watering, alternating streets. Yeah. I can think of many years where we lived with this kind of a summer where we were, in fact, dealing with that issue. And in the past few years, in fact, I think all the years that I've been on the board, I don't recall summer watering being an issue at all, so people have forgotten about these rules to start with. So my question, Greg, is, I know things are still very tentative and we haven't really had any rain and there's not much forecast. Are we in a position at this point to consider lifting the ban and going to, following the bylaw of alternate days?
The administration's recommendation is not at this time.
Not at this time. We will be reviewing that.
We review it on an ongoing basis. We're not gonna wait until the next meeting. If obviously things look like they're positive, we will provide notification to the board and we'll proceed with lifting the ban or modifying the ban. But at this time, with lack of precipitation, it's very difficult to do so.
Yeah, and looking at the numbers, it would appear as though, we're at 99% of capacity right now without the Andover water, but until Andover turns the spigot back
Right.
on,
I don't think we can
we're
do
at a
anything.
pretty high risk of dropping down just on a 2-day
Right.
cycle, a 2 or 3-day cycle, so I think it's
Very
prudent,
prudent.
I think very prudent, what the administration is proposing.
Well, I guess, what might help is to take a look at what our daily water usage is. Kind of monitor that versus what our potential capacity, daily capacity is. And at some point, it would make sense to maybe reduce the ban to something less restrictive. But right now,
Not until Andover turns
I
on the
know that,
spigot. Yeah.
well, I know the tanks are pretty much full at this point due to the efforts of everybody. But what I don't know is, how much additional capacity is sitting there, with the Andover restriction. Because we don't have a figure of what we've reduced our consumption to. Let's see, we have 8 o'clock.
Sorry.
Discussion of, I'm trying to figure out what we should go on to.
Town administration.
Yeah, I guess,
Want to do the charter review?
we can do that in 15 minutes?
Doubtful.
No. I mean, it depends on how much you guys came with, I mean. Probably not.
I mean, we do have feedback on the processes from
Oh, we
town
can go to
council.
that.
We can talk about that a little bit.
Why don't we do that?
The way I read this is that we, in what I call, before getting to a full charter commission voted by town meeting, there's actually 2 processes that could be followed. One where the board or a citizen's petition can put an article on town meeting to make appropriate changes. It goes then before the Attorney General, who can approve it or disapprove it, and so on and so forth. It's probably oversimplified, but, and then the other where you actually petition a home rule petition and go through your legislative body and then back to the town for approval. So, but the restrictions, I think, are what, this gets back to what are called, so-called minor amendments.
Which I don't think is gonna be a problem for
For what we've been
what we
talking
want
about,
to do,
right?
yeah. I mean, I haven't seen suggestions yet from everybody. I did receive Sean's, and I was hoping the rest of you.
Well,
have-
verbally, I can,
Yeah.
my and our have been the changing of the annual town meeting date in, from April to the first Monday in June, I would say. And then I'm a little mixed in reading this as to whether changing the date of the town election to, which would be, if we were consistent with the, having it after the annual town meeting, would have to be sometime in early June. And I don't know whether that meets the 4 corners of,
My read of this, that's possible by a minor amendment, either by home rule or by a petition by this board or by a citizen's petition. it seems like the only restriction we have, we could not change the composition of the board, the mode of the election, or any appointments, terms of office. And I don't see by changing the election date.
Yeah,
Falls
we were
within-
talked about elections, I didn't
Right.
know whether, how that would be construed.
Yeah, I don't think that this would restrict us or require us to do a charter commission, change the date of the election. That's my read of it, but I'm sure town council can add more to it. But I think it makes sense if we're moving town meeting out, that we should move town election out.
And Mike, that was primarily the one big item that, you know, I would put forward as something that we should consider doing.
Michael, you have
We've
mine.
actually done
Yeah,
that
no,
now.
sure, I mean,
I didn't print mine out, but Michael, you
I
can.
printed it. You want me to,
You can read through it, sure.
referee, okay. Well, before we do that, Greg, do you have any additional insight from town council on anything in addition to what you received from?
No, it's pretty straightforward what council has provided.
Okay. Let's see, Sean provided, his comment here is chapter 2, town meeting, under section 4 for the procedure. He says consideration should be given to moving the town meeting to June, possibly on a Saturday. Again, I don't think he's saying that's what we should do, but we should discuss it. It goes along similar to what I was mentioning the last meeting we had.
That's correct. And also, if we're moving April town meeting to June, do we then move October town meeting?
I think Bob mentioned that.
I don't think we need to move October.
Yeah, again, October is
Yeah.
generally bylaw related, things like that. I mean, we handle some fiscal matters, but it's basically to balance the books.
Right.
I think the
October
issue
time
there,
is
Sean, is that you've got, in that time frame, you do have your year-end closing, you have your
Yeah.
free cash, you know, what you're gonna deal with, but then you're also getting close to the time when you're into setting the tax rate, and there may be some action that needs to be taken at a town meeting prior to that. So, you know, I didn't.
That's fine, I just
yeah.
threw it out there.
Conceivably, you could go to November. You could move it out a month, but no more than that.
No more than, it'd have to be,
And again, if we needed to do that, we can do it just by adjourning the session of town meeting, do it in, not in all the years.
well, I think
Nothing comes to my
that
meeting once or something,
we've
we
been
had to do
moving the April town
Right,
meeting,
we
and the
moved
idea
April,
was to
but
fix
I haven't
it.
seen us
Right.
move anything really.
No, the only
once I
thing
forget
that
what the
we've
issue
had to
was.
move in October is related to the holiday thing, and we've already got that in place.
Right.
I just figured, just throw it out there for discussion, just to, if we're moving April to June, do you move October out, just so you have your time frame in between? That's all.
And then the next thing in that same chapter, he mentioned that we should consider the elimination of mailing. Consideration should be given to the eliminating the mailing requirement for the warrant, the town warrant.
Right.
It would be interesting if we'd be allowed to do it, because in reading through notification for charter changes and all the rest, they talk about mailings to all inhabitants of the town in the statute and in the requirements, so I'm wondering if we would
But
run
I don't
afoul.
know.
I mean, I'm not opposed to taking a look at it.
No, I did
But
read
I
that.
don't wanna run
and-
afoul
And
of it.
I was questioning that too, but I was hoping it was saying, and I was gonna ask Barbara Stats about if they were actually referring to that we're gonna provide a solution though, so that it gets out there. If we're not gonna mail it, we still have to have a solution to get it out there. And what is that gonna be? I think that's kinda how I was reading it, but.
See, the
wasn't
thing that,
100% sure.
you know, the thing that, if you go back to what we've done past 2 years, is we've put out the warrant in a form that's a little different than we've done in years past, because we haven't detailed out the omnibus article and the major spending article. And what we've done is we've provided that information on the town website. We've provided access to hard copies in town, and then for those that came to town meeting, they picked up a copy at the desk. Now, no one has challenged that, but, you know, how many times have people here said, well, you know, I wish I had it a week ahead of time so I could look
Right.
it over. And you know, it would be nice to be able to just publish it on the website